make the case for why oil is 73 is too high. And I said, we got just the guy coming on tomorrow to talk about this. So tell us where we're at, why the price is too high, and
Sure.
where it should be.
Sure. So when just to take the other side to that, when you look at what has happened over the let's just say the last month, and then what do we see going over the next 6 months? When you look out at the oil curve itself, you're in steep backwardation. There's this movement where we're going to have shortfalls right now, and you've seen a lot of these differentials blow out, and just differentials being between months. When you look at Cushing, and there's a lot behind that. So let's break that apart into what it is. So when we look at the refined product side, right now we're at a second highest ever for the amount of gasoline and storage. Same with jet fuel. The highest ever was in 2020. And distillate is in a fairly balanced place. And you have to think about how a refiner actually cracks oil. So when you look at what the refiners have done within the U.S., they've really ramped up their gasoline production, taking that as high as it really can be, given the crude that they're using, what they're running at max light, which is just a very light crude or a higher API of 40 to 45. But we're optimized between 33 and 34. So right now there's this disconnect between imports and what we have available. So they're trying to work through what they have available while they're waiting for the imports to come through. While this is happening, we're seeing our exports starting to drop off. By the end of June, we'll see them come under pressure in terms of less exports and a big surge in imports coming into the U.S. So when you look at what's happening right now, refiners are going to shift the way that they're running oil and just where they're pulling a lot of this crude from. Then when you look abroad, and this is something that I think is missed by the market for them at this point, is you have to look at Asia. And Asia is just not buying oil in the way that they have in previous years, in previous months. And you could say, well, India's coming back. Well, they are back, and they've never really stopped running their refiners at an elevated level. Where the first COVID lockdown, they went to about 60% utilization rate, and the low they hit was about 85, 86, and they're right back up to 95%. But we haven't seen the demand side come back for the product. So now we're seeing a big outflow or exports of those refined products into both storage of Singapore and then bumping down into Fujairah, all the way into the Atlantic Basin, and then getting pieced off into either the Europe, LATAM, or the US. So right now we have this flood of product, and the market is now ignoring the product side and focusing on the crude draws. And my whole thing is that we're outpacing on the product builds, outpacing on the crude draws, and then that's going to adjust. But we're just not seeing the demand side come back to the way it needs to in order to adjust that. So we're going to see an increase in distillate builds over the coming months, and we're just not going to see these drawdowns in gasoline that we're hoping for. Not because we aren't going to see summer demand, because we are. It'll be slightly below what it has been previously, but there's just so much floating product out there that it's going to come through. Then you look at Asia, and you focus on the biggest guy in the room, which is China. And when you look at China, China's just not buying on the way that they have in the past. When we look at Congo, we look at Angola, we look at Nigeria, and now when you look at the spreads in general, they're buying some from West Africa. From the Middle East. You're seeing ESPO getting purchased. So it's really kind of a crude quality situation. They're coming in they came at the teapots. They cut import quotas by 35%, which again is just going to shift the way crude is moving. And then they put levies on some of this short cycle oil. So they're going to see their imports just continue to come down. But again, that's just going to displace crude runs in general. So we're just seeing a lot of noise and a lot of things happening, and it's all coming back and then pushing back on the U.S., where we're going to start to see a slowdown in draws and even potentially builds, which I think is going to kind of break this narrative on, we're running out of oil. Because when you look at storage in general, we're still elevated. We still have over 30 days in storage on days to cover, and we have just more